for seeing me and having me come to visit. This is an interesting time in the sort of Dickensian sense. May you live in interesting times. I've just returned from a professional conference, which is why I was racing up from Philadelphia Airport. And one of the things that I found at that conference, which was the National Teacher Education Conference, with a lot of places talking about the same issues that we're talking about. So it's somehow reassuring to know that we're dealing with things that are very much the same, not only as other parts of Pennsylvania, but as other parts of the country. I think I represent some of that because in my 40-plus years here, I've watched the infrastructure of this district. In fact, my children were the beneficiaries of several new schools in 1967 and in 1970. They're no longer new schools. They therefore need lots of attention. And I've watched us as a community grow and change. We've evolved a great deal. We're a very different community than we were 40 years ago. And I think that's part of the process that we're going through in this community, and the last several years have been examples of it. Let me say that I do want to congratulate the district on receiving the Siemens Award for excellence in AP work. It was nice to be sitting in New Orleans and to see State College Area High School in USA Today, and everybody got to talk about it. It was a nice feeling. It's also an example of the kind of thing that this district has always done. We have had excellence in so many different areas within the district, from athletics to the music that we talk about all the time, and all sorts of academics. We have excellence in the Career and Technology Center and other things within this program that I think we don't always put together all at once. One of the things I learned about there, or heard about again, is a recent study that I'd had chanced upon earlier called Tough Choices, Tough Times, which really talks about education for the workforce. And it strikes a chord with me because that was my father's life's work. He worked for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce in Washington and wrote a book called Education and Investment in People at a time when the Chamber happened to feel that it was very important for business to come to the point of recognizing the primacy of investment in local schools, local school buildings, local school programs, upgrading teaching and administrators and all the rest of it. That was the 50s. It seems to me that we're very close to the same sort of situation today, because we need to have our business community solidly behind the school district, as the rest of the academic people may well be. The business folks have a different perspective, and it's an important one for us to understand. So that's the kind of thing I think we need to do on this board, taking into account all of the facets of the community. If there's a problem, we need to expand the area, the groups of people that we talk with. I learned as I was investigating the investments of education that it's important for the total community to be involved. I happen to represent a demographic which, with maybe one exception, isn't on this board. The nearly retired or the really retired, which, as you know, is an expanding part of the community. I'm a part of that 80% or whatever it is who do not have children in school. That's a group of people that I'm not sure were heard as well last year and the year before as they perhaps should be. At least my neighbors would say that. They are people who moved to this community, have never had children in these schools, and hence know very little about them. I think that's something that as a board we should take as a task to help the people who do not and have not had children in our schools understand what's out there. They will not go because their kids used to do these things. They really have no connection. They do have connections to schools, of course, the schools their own children went to. They just aren't here. So I think there are a number of things we can do. I think the board has a task to be an advocate for the schools, for the school district, not for individual things, although we sometimes may have to do that. I think that's something we can arrange to do, letting each person do those things which are most comfortable. I have managed lots of large budgets over the years, none as large as this one. So I have great respect for the people who both develop and manage the budget here. I guess I should say that I ran for this office in an off-year election to fill an unfilled position, a partial term, and in the process learned a lot about the district because I came in and asked to look at things. From that time on, which is now quite a number of years, I've been looking at lots of different kinds of budgets in many different school districts across the state. That was part of my job. I find that what always seems to happen is that we have wonderful intentions, we have great objectives, we often have very good people, but we find ourselves having to make difficult choices because the choices come down to whether we can manage to do the things that our great ideas tell us to do with the resources that we have. And generally speaking, there's a mismatch. And that's the reason we have to make the difficult choices. How do we manage to accomplish the goals, not to give in and somehow not do the things we want to do, at the same time being cost effective about it. I've had a lot of choices about hiring faculty and staff. I've unfortunately had to terminate some too, which is my least favorite thing to do. Those kinds of choices are extremely painful, but they are things we sometimes have to do. When I served as administrative fellow with Steve Garvin in the Office of Business and Operations at the university, I got a look at a massive budget, which I trust this district will never approach. But it helped me to appreciate the many facets of school, district, university, that kind of budgeting, the things that you don't see on the surface, the things that are hidden inside the budget. It's not simply maintenance, and it's not simply building buildings. It is maintaining, upgrading, continuously serving with them. And that is what I think is the challenge here. I have no doubt that we will find a way as a community to redo the buildings at whatever cost and however long it takes. What we have to be sure is that we can afford to maintain those buildings and keep the right kinds of staff in them and keep the right kinds of programs going on in them while we're doing it.
Great. Thank you.
Notice that I tend to be rather direct. I prefer not to speak in veiled language. That's both good and bad depending on where you are. And I'm hoping that that's what the board expects to be doing amongst itself, yourselves, and also with the community as a whole. I think we need to talk clearly and in non-educator language that everybody can understand whenever we have choices to make. I remember the discussion you had not many weeks ago about the BB gun contest that might have been held in our district. It was one of the few votes you've taken to this point that was really divided. You had a serious difference of opinion. And I thought everybody expressed him and herself well and clearly, so nobody had any questions about where people were. The data were clear, and you made a choice. That's the kind of thing I would like to see continuing on this board, no matter who the 9th member is. I'm looking forward to seeing that happen, and I thank you very much for the opportunity to talk with you.